If your takedowns keep getting stuffed, it might be that you're skipping the most important step, the setup. Here's how one of the best wrestlers in MMA history set up his takedowns with timing and a systematic approach. Much has changed in the 21 years since Georges St-Pierre made his UFC debut and became an international superstar, but he set a tone with his shoot boxing. His ability to mix his punches, kicks, and other strikes in with his wrestling that continues to guide the greats of new generations of fighters today. This video is a case study of how one of the best MMA wrestlers to ever do it used his striking to set up his dominant takedown game. One thing GSP did exceptionally well was to use his jab, as well as feint the jab, to bring his opponent's hands high, giving him the opportunity to shoot on their legs uncontested. In order for this to work, you need to have been using and landing with the jab so your opponent begins to anticipate it and will react in a way favorable to you. In his first bout with Matt Hughes at UFC 50 in 2004, you can see Georges St-Pierre intentionally setting up his early takedown this way. While waiting outside of the pocket, GSP repeatedly steps in, either feinting or actually throwing the jab each time. Once he's landed here, Hughes is expecting the jab, so GSP steps in again, flicking the hand out, but this time he goes straight for the leg, sitting Matt Hughes down to the crackdown position and eventually finishing the takedown. This was early in GSP's career, and you can see that he was a bit overextended here, with that leg that he's driving off of quite far away, and even his penetration leg a bit off. But we'll see him clean this technique up as he developed as a champion over the years. 13 years later, in his bout with Michael Bisping, we'll see him use the same entry. He's circling with Bisping, trying to keep him on the cage, feint, and another feint, but this time when Michael Bisping parries the half jab, GSP, rather than pull the hand back, shoots directly to that single leg, dropping his weight downward on the side where the leg is elevated. Honestly, his positioning looks awkward as hell, but he certainly made it work for him. Another contender in GOAT conversations, Khabib, would often use the same setup, but Khabib would be much more intentional in his foot placement, often stepping on line with the front foot of the leg that he was attacking, and favoring sweeping style finishes or pushing his opponent to the wall. Another way in which GSP would set up his takedowns is through timing his opponent's punches and shooting underneath them. Look here in his fight with Dan Hardy. Several times GSP would stand within punching range of Dan. George would wait for Dan to throw and time his penetration step just as the punch was coming, taking a deep double leg just before stepping in and doing a quick oomph to pull Dan's feet off the ground and sit him directly onto his butt. He would use the same takedown in the opening seconds of his UFC 83 bout with Matt Serra as well. Just 2 seconds in, Matt Serra leads with a jab and then loads up an overhand, but George has already initiated a shot before Matt has even fully retracted the jab. He shoots in on what I call a misdirection double leg. One hand either just under the buttocks or around the waist, elevating the leg on the same side as the attacker's head, and rather than drive up and inward, per usual double leg finish, he rotates his body towards the vacuum left by the missing leg. In the same round, George would use the same entry again. He led with his patented Superman punch and exited with a hard leg kick before stepping back to just inside of punching range again. When Matt attempted to close the distance with a double jab, and presumably meant to follow it up with another overhand, GSP once again ducked underneath it with a very clean double leg finish. Do me a favor and like the video and subscribe to my channel if you'd be so kind. I'm planning on bringing you more frequent analysis to help you level up this year. He would employ this exact sequence in his later bout with Thiago Alves at UFC 100. Superman punch, exit with a quick leg kick, and wait for the other fighter to return fire, this time ducking under the 3 and going right into a blast double. He would have success with this takedown multiple times in the same bout. In the third round, he begins a striking exchange with Thiago Alves, throwing a 1-2, to which Alves returns with a jab. Once again, George throws the 1-2, anticipating Thiago's counter and ducking into a double leg, which turns into a body lock and then a knee tap. One more strategy GSP would employ for his takedowns was catching his opponent's kicks and using that to enter directly into his offensive wrestling, as he would in his first bout against Josh Koscheck. When Josh throws the inside leg kick, by the time it lands, GSP is already reaching both his hands to snatch a double leg while Josh's weight is displaced, leaving him in a base from which it would be very difficult to defend takedowns. It's worth noting that Josh hadn't thrown that strike yet in the entire fight, so George's reaction time must have been incredibly on point to have been able to recognize that kick coming without a pre-established pattern and to immediately counter with a takedown. Likely the result of thousands of repetitions. Again in his bout with Matt Serra, this time GSP starts to throw a jab cross at almost the same exact time Serra throws an outside leg kick. He's already reaching to catch the kick as his cross is still headed towards Serra. You do need to be careful doing this because if your opponent can successfully condition you to believe a leg or body kick is coming and you drop your level in your hands to catch it, then they can throw a head kick which could have fight-changing consequences. In the third round of his bout with Jake Shields, the moment George recognizes the leg kick is coming, he straightens his front hand to catch the kick below the knee before transitioning to a double and quickly lifting and spiking Jake to the mat. A takedown he would execute in almost identical fashion just moments later in the next round. It's important to drive your feet in these scenarios. All the power in a double leg comes from foot movement. In summary, use a combination of jabs and feints to get your opponent's hands high so you can shoot while their hands are occupied. You can also wait for them to advance or bait them into a striking exchange and time your penetration step for the moment they begin to throw, entering below their defenses while they're striking. Another reliable method for initiating takedowns is off your opponent's leg kick. But do be sure that they're actually throwing a leg kick so you don't eat a head kick. Tell me in the comments if you think GSP would be as effective in taking down his opponents amongst the current roster of welterweights, or has the game changed too much for him to be competitive at the highest levels? And how do you like to set up your takedowns in an MMA context? Please be sure to like and subscribe so we can reach monetization status, and check out our sponsors below.